it's Andy Campbell. Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Andy Campbell and I'm Commercial Director at Elevator, and I'm delighted to be your host today for our third in a 3-series special of programmes between Elevator and STV, known as our STV series. And as mentioned, this is a special collaboration between Elevator and STV. Elevator is one of Scotland's leading business support organisations, and we joined forces with STV in 2020 to combine our efforts to support startups and growing businesses across Scotland. We share the same commitment in supporting Scotland's SMEs and future entrepreneurs. The STV series aims to bring together our networks to create a bustling community of entrepreneurs and providing a platform for individuals to access greater support, advice, and inspiration to scale their businesses, shape their brands, and build their confidence. A few housekeeping notes before we progress with today's fantastic session. Questions can be asked throughout. We've got some brilliant panelists on with us today. So if you've got any questions, make sure you ask those questions. And you can add them either to the comments box or you can use the Q&A box as well. And our team will be keeping an eye on those questions as you come through, and so will I. So moving on to today's session, and it's all about connecting with your customer. And in business, it's very simple. If you don't have a customer, you don't have a business. So I'm joined by 3 wonderful panelists today who will be able to share their views and insights into the important issues around connecting with your customers and what you can do as a business to increase your chances of success. So I'm delighted to introduce our very first panelist today, and that is the Business Development Director at STV, Craig Lawson. Craig, how are you?
Andy, I'm very well, thank you.
Great. Wonderful to have you on today's programme. Craig, I understand you've got a presentation lined up for us. So without further ado, I'll hand everyone over to you now to take us through your presentation.
Fantastic. Thanks, Andy. And also thank you to my colleague, Sarah, who's assisting by hosting the presentation, which we're just about to share. Just as a starting point, I'd like to introduce myself, Craig Lawson, Business Development Director at STV. Been with the company for over 10 years. Love the world of television advertising. And day to day, I deal with advertisers across the north and east of Scotland by heading up the sales teams in Aberdeen, Dundee and Edinburgh, all scales and size of business. And when selling television advertising, we tend to sell in the mass reach. STV reaches 80% of Scots every month. And if you look at last night, for example, there was just under 500,000 people watching STV News at 6. So in a sense, we have an awful lot of customers who consume our product, which is television programs. But the key is, what do you do with that reach? And for any brand investing in television advertising, they know the reach is going to be there by accessing some wonderful programs, Coronation Street, Emmerdale, ITV News, I'm a Celebrity, Ant and Dec, who are on my screen just now. And it's really a blank canvas. And I often start by saying, you really need to get across the who, what, when, where, why. So who are you as a brand? What is it you're selling, whether it be a product or a service? When? Is it a sale? Is there a time limit on the product? Where? Whether it's in-store or online. And you finally come to why. And I think this is the link to connecting with your customer. Is in the business world, it's tough out there. There's lots of competition. So there's a real importance on the why should a customer choose your brand over the brand just down the road who sell roughly the same thing. So let's first of all look at the importance of your brand. I'm glad that Andy's taking this really seriously, because the background screen is absolutely fantastic that he has today. A nice sponsored by STV mention. So first of all, 81% of consumers say that they need to be able to trust a brand before they can buy from them. And it's key to building connections, the ability that business can essentially persuade consumers to behave in a certain way. Advertising can prime an audience to view a brand in a certain way. And it's really what sets your brand apart from the competition is that connection, is the why. A big part of that is emotion. So if we head to the next slide, emotion drives a connection between the brand and the consumer. TV, from all the studies, is by far and away the most trusted media for Scots. And really importantly, emotive advertising campaigns are 50% more likely to create a large business effect. I'll be taking an example here from Tesco, their food love story adverts, where it's very different to just simply selling a pack of food at a certain price. It then brings it to life. It's then relatable to consumers sitting on their sofas, watching the advert, contemplating not only why buy from Tesco, but, you know, let's plan ahead to the weekend. We really want to have an enjoyable dinner with family and friends, and it really gets across the warmth that setting can provide. So if we just play that ad just now.
And have fun cooking together instead. And it became our thing. Of course, I didn't realise what you were doing at the time. But then, you've always been a bit sneaky like that. Thanks, Mum.
Make your own with Tesco Finest Ultimate Brisket and Chuck Burgers. Food love stories brought to you by Tesco.
So there we have the focus on cooking for the family, not just a package of food, and really bring it to life. The next focus on storytelling, and it's well proven that a story is much easier to retain than facts and figures, and people are able to then relate to stories. So as a definition, storytelling marketing means using a narrative to communicate a message. The aim is to make the viewer feel something, enough that it will inspire them to take action. And we have a fantastic example here from the Hey Girls TV campaign.
You know what food they like, right? But when it comes to pads and tampons, you don't have a clue. But that's okay. Hey Girls, a UK-based social enterprise, is here to help us dads end the stigma of talking about periods and buying period products for the young women in your life. They're also supporting young women who don't have access to these products. So visit heygirls.co.uk to learn more. And let's not leave dads out of the bloody conversation.
So quite impactful. And it's really about knowing your customer, making it relatable, and showing how the brand that you have to offer can offer a solution to customer problems. And again, that being brought to life in that television advert. On to brand building now, and we've selected one of the household names across the UK to focus on here. Brand building leads to long-term growth. Businesses look to prime consumers to choose their brand, whether it's a small brand as a startup or a huge brand. The same principles really apply. But essentially, we focused on John Lewis, and over decades through their television advertising, they've built a reputation of quality, a business you can rely on. And the brand building has led to a dominant position in that luxurious consumer retail market. And there's always chat in the news when they announced their Christmas television advert, you know, it's one of those things in life where you kind of think, right, Christmas has arrived because John Lewis' new advert is out. So we'll just have a look at this ad.
I follow the night, can't stand the light. One day I'll fly away, leave all this to yesterday. What more can your love do for me? When will I be free?
I think John Lewis really play on the emotional factors there, and you know, it's hard not to feel really warm when you watch that. You know, the use of snow, the use of animals interacting with each other. The children are in the advert, the Christmas tree is there, the presents are there, and actually there's a twist of humour thrown in as well, all leading up to the branding at the end of the advert. And that's really what John Lewis have done superbly over the years, is make people feel something through their marketing. We'll just head to the next slide, and we have a chart that looks relatively complicated, but let's just break it down. So along the bottom, we have the length of time that a advertising campaign takes place, and on the left-hand side, we have the sales uplift over the base. And what you see is the longer you advertise, the broader the base. And to put this in layman's terms, if you were, say, for example, a kitchen and bathroom showroom, and you put out an advert tomorrow, there will be an element of the population in the market who are seriously contemplating upgrading a kitchen or bathroom. But there are also a huge number of people out there who will fall into that market at a later date, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or even 2 years down the line. And that's where the branding element comes into it, is you can have short-term success, go out tonight and you will drive leads and drive a response. But the longer you stick at it, the more successful you will be. And the more success is very much tied to the brand building and building and building over time. And I've seen this many, many times in my role. And it's you know, one of the joys of my job is to see a brand start a journey with STV, and you know, they're on the left-hand side of the chart, and you know, maybe 2, 4, 6 years later, they're still with us, but much larger in size and scale. Heading on, TV evokes the most emotion of any other media. And if you just look at the John Lewis example we showed there, you'd find it difficult to feel the way you felt there by using any other medium. You know, you're sitting down on the sofa with loved ones, relaxing, and it's a big screen experience, and you're able to really enjoy that type of advertising. And 58% of respondents to a the TV Ad Nation survey commented that, you know, TV was the medium to evoke the most emotion of any. All other advertising mediums there are fantastic in their own right, and they are effective in their own right. But I think the very basic thing with television is the audio-visual experience, the ability to bring a brand to life. And you've seen it time and time again. And I'd urge you to maybe just ask yourself a question, which is, what is your favourite advert of all time? Now, I've not said television advert, I said advert, but more often than not, you will think of a television advert. And that's where, you know, the TV comes into its own. But we move on to sales activation. So we're looking at that immediate response that you're looking for as a brand. Sales activation tends to dominate in the short term, including a prompt to encourage a customer to buy now. The most obvious example being companies such as DFS, SCS, who seem to continuously have sales, but they're very effective. And again, it's about reaching the customer who is in that market at that time for that item of furniture. And it's fast impact. You expect to see visitors online there and then, actually. There's so many people sitting on a sofa with a phone either in their hand or by their sides. And that's something that we find is we can quite easily link an airtime schedule on TV to a brand's web hits. And the idea being, obviously, the next day, the customer then either buys online or visits in store. So I think we have an example of SCS.
Many prices are down right now in the massive mega savings event at SCS. With mega savings on sofas. This one's now only $3.99. Mega savings on sofas like this, now only $4.95. And mega savings on carpets. This half price offer now $9.99 a square metre. It's incredible value. Plus, SCS will pay for your fitting. Massive mega savings are on right now. Don't miss this stunning sofa, just $2.99 at SCS.
Now, I must mention at this stage a big disclaimer. If you're looking for a bed, you must go to Beds to Go. Lewis is joining the call in about 20 minutes' time. Over to the next slide, and we look at sponsorship. Sponsorship is a great way to align your brand with a programme or indeed a channel. In this case, we have an example of Galloway cheese. You see in the packaging, the Scottish logo, the link to STV. The S in STV is you know, Scottish, and it's a cracking partnership that works extremely well. And if we just play the example,
make it magic. I'm Mr. Cheese and Toast. The secret, I'm taking it with me. It makes me think of lazy Sundays with the family, just watching the telly and hiding from the cold. Perfect.
Bringing it home. STV, sponsored by Galloway.
So very simple, straightforward, and very clever. It's a way to obtain massive reach with brand association there. We have a fantastic sponsorship example from back in 2018, before the pandemic hit. Fred Olsen Cruises sponsored daytime on STV. Their objective was to grow passenger numbers in Scotland by 10% and also build a trust with the audience. And the outcome was that they doubled their increased booking target for Scotland. And they were also mentioned by over 1 in 4 people unprompted when asked about cruises in the survey. So they were absolutely delighted. And I fully expect to see Fred Olsen back on as soon as they're able to fully reopen. We'll move on now to what I like day to day is spot advertising, and it's the traditional type of advert that you will see when you switch on the television. It's a very flexible type of advertising. There's no real significant compliance issues to deal with. You essentially buy 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds of space in an ad break during a program, and by and large you can really say what you want to say within reason. It's a great way to build a brand, and also a great way to tell a story. And even the John Lewis example was a spot advert, albeit I think it was about 1 minute 30 in length. A great example of a spot advert is this next sale ad that we're just about to show.
It's time for the next sale. Absolutely all next sale items half price or even less. The next sale starts Saturday at 7 AM.
So you see quite a drastic difference between the John Lewis example and the next example there. The next example will be 10 seconds in length, but essentially Next are using that to meet their objectives, which are very different from John Lewis. So by getting the message out, it's about selling, retail wares ASAP. So it's very much a short-term approach. This quote I like a lot, and I think it's true. When people listen to pitches, either containing facts or figures or a story, only 5% recall stats, but 63% remember the stories. I say I think it's true because when I think back to all the client meetings I've had over the years, it's probably quite hard to retain all the facts and figures, but you do remember the stories, you do remember what's worked. And I think it's so important for a brand to portray a story, because most brands will have a story. It's very hard, to set up a business and make a success of it, and there's always a story to be told. So I think that's something important to keep in mind. Obviously, we've had a difficult year that we've all come through, and we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But some research from Campaign Live suggests that 65% of consumers said that how brands respond to the pandemic will have a huge impact on their likelihood to buy their products. I think Barclays absolutely got this spot on. We'll just play the ad here.
Hi, how are you?
There we go. The residents have been connecting with their families, which has been invaluable.
Well, I love to keep an eye on social media.
Googling, video calling my dogs.
They are somebody's husband, somebody's wife, somebody's father.
Being able to connect to their loved ones has been a real lifeline.
I mean, essentially, what they're doing there has little to do with banking. But what they are doing is so important for the elderly community through what was a very, very difficult time. It's such a positive brand perception to that type of advertising. And, I think they were right to highlight the good work they were doing there. Absolutely fantastic to see. We move over to the lifetime value of a customer to STV. And what I'm essentially trying to say here is that if you come to STV for the first time and look to do some advertising, we don't want that campaign to last for 1 month or 3 months. We want to last it for year after year after year and build a relationship that's successful for us both. And a good example of this is Digby Brown, who I think are now a household name across Scotland. It matters that the slogan is also a household name, and they also had to really pivot fast in response to the pandemic, because it was a business that could operate through lockdowns, but they had to be seen to demonstrate that they could do so in a safe way. And through the work with STV, they were able to broadcast this advert, which I think just absolutely got the message spot on.
Say hello to Moira in Ayr, Niels in Carnoustie,
That's Freya taking a call in Dundee, Andy's in Glasgow, Cyrus in Edinburgh, and Ryan's in Kirkcaldy. They're all discussing a case. Like all their colleagues, they're working remotely. Although our offices are temporarily closed, we are very much open. Digby Brown are still here to help, to answer, to reassure. Because keeping safe matters, and that's why you matter to Digby Brown.
So that was very smart, a very clever pivot, and worked extremely well for Digby, and it allowed their television advertising journey to continue, which was absolutely fantastic. I'm just going to have a little look at the STV audience, because you know, it's important that you connect with the right customer, and we essentially have two key platforms, which is broadcast and online. So on the broadcast side on television, we're able to tell each client who we reach, and then meet the client's objectives accordingly by targeting the campaign. On the online side, there's a slight bias to the ABC demographic. So, you know, things like wealth management, they may wish to actually say, we want to reach an ABC One profile within age of 16 to 54, if, for example, they're selling mortgages. So there's very clever things we can do there. It's very important for us to sit down with the client, understand the client and their objectives, match the audience, and then, you know, it's really over to the brand to tell the story, really. And to enable brands a journey on STV, we have the Growth Fund, which launched in 2018. And essentially it's there to support business to access television advertising for the first time. We've done over 500 deals since it launched, which is huge. 91% of those brands commented that they saw an increase in brand awareness. We did some research off the back of it, over 200 new jobs created, 22 new premises opened. And it's just great to see the power of TV fueling Scottish business growth. And the main ways that the Growth Fund applies to businesses: match funding, revenue share, or gifted airtime. So if it is something of interest, then drop a line in the chat box and we will be sure to follow up. So I'd just like to thank you all for your time. Very much appreciated. And also, you know, thanks to Andy and the team at Elevator. And a shout out to our upcoming panel members, Shelley Booth and Lewis, who are actually both Growth Fund members. So thanks also to your support in recent times.
Great, thank you very much indeed, Craig. I know you're going to be staying with us through the remainder of the broadcast, because I'm sure we'll be coming to you with lots of questions. A really thorough presentation, very detailed, lots of information. I'm not sure if I can quite forgive you for bringing up Christmas so early with the John Lewis ad, because here we are in June and I've not even started to think about it, but some really great points coming out there. And just before we go on to our next guest, one of the first things that we do at Elevator is we sit down our cohorts that we're supporting, and we get them to watch the Simon Sinek TED Talk, which talks very much about what you do and how you do it, but most importantly, the why you do it. And he's quoted as saying, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that seems to be a really important message that you emphasize through. It's the why that's really vital in the stories. Craig, would you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's I think the who, what, when, where are quite basic. You know, it's why that will drive business. And I do feel there's so much competition out there these days. And it's, you know, something we look at as a TV channel is why watch STV?
Yep.
We're the home of Scottish, you know, the television entertainment. So the why is very important. I think every business does have a story. I think it's important to have that story heard.
To be able to tell them. No, excellent. I'm sure we'll be exploring the whys of our next two panelists. But for now, Craig, thank you for your time. We'll come back to you a little bit later on in the Q&A, but thanks. And we'll now bring Lewis into the call. Good afternoon, Lewis. How are you? Hi there. Thanks for having me. I'm very well, thank you. Great. So Lewis, Beds to Go is the company. Craig had mentioned that you're a Growth Fund member. You've used STV, but I thought perhaps by way of scene setting, we could show the advert that you put out through STV, and then we could dig into your business a little bit more and have you more formally introduce yourself. So if we're able to show Lewis's video, that'd be wonderful.
Apologies, some technical difficulties.
We'll give it one more go.
No.
No, we seem to be having an issue with your video, Lewis. Well, listen, not to worry. Lewis, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and introducing your company, that'd be great. Thanks.
Certainly. My name's Lewis Craddock. I am the owner of Beds to Go in Aberdeen. We supply mattresses, beds, associated items, and have been in business for 40 years in October.
Okay, and 40 years, a long time in business, Lewis.
I look good for it, don't I?
Well, I was going to say, so clearly it's a business that's been trading, so fairly well known, but television advertising, you saw that as an important step to connecting with your customer.
Yeah, absolutely. So television, so the business has been on the go for a long time. I'm not the original starter. I took it over about 4 years ago, having worked for the business for nearly 20. And I was learning my craft, I suppose, learning about different forms of advertising. If we turn back the clock very quickly, paper advertising, newspapers was a very heavy part for our small shop. There's certainly been slow in that sort of paper copies, hard copies of papers. People don't, in my view, people don't read as much as they once did. So we're looking for different forms. I'm always open to trying new things, from putting my face onto the back of a bus to trying something on the radio, something a bit different on the radio. Anyway, ultimately we came to STV, had a chat with them, and came up with an idea. Now that was three years ago now. I think I've been with STV, and we're on our third advert as well. So the one that we Sarah just about got for us there is the latest, most up-to-date one, probably the most loud and jump out your TV at you. But then that's need to shout loud when you're just a small guy like me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've obviously been quite adventurous in terms of some of the things that you've done. And, you know, they were exploring connecting with your customer. And Craig brought up a really good comment about why, you know, you being able to explain your why to the customer. And then we've seen ads that, you know, kind of does what they say in the tin, buy X product now. What sort of approach do you take in connecting with your customer, Lewis, and why is that important for you?
So it was never, maybe it was sold to me, or it was certainly discussed quite heavily in the early stages, that this wasn't a flash in the pan, let's give it a try for 4 weeks and then stop it. This was always going to be, well, initially it was going to be a year-long campaign. And so my first sort of point to get across was that I need to tell people who I am. Yeah, my name says a lot. It kind of is written on the tin, but I still need to tell people that I sell mattresses, they're at a good price, and you come and buy them. I would like you to come and buy them from me. So the first advert was really an introduction, and that's maybe where I differed from the norm, I suppose, because I'm maybe quite an outgoing guy myself. I thought I came up with the idea of me being instantly regrettable a little bit, me being in the advert itself, and on the face that you see when you come in the door, I'm the one that'll sell you a bed, and yeah, why not put myself out there first? So that was my initial idea, was to sell, just to give you an introduction, to give the customers an introduction to me before they actually walk in my door.
Yep. And what's been the evolution of your message, Lewis? Obviously, you as the main proprietor, people know who you are, they get to establish that sort of personal connection, hopefully. But how has your adverts evolved to take into consideration the types of customers that you're looking to attract?
So they have evolved quite a bit. So I would maybe say the first two would be in a similar sort of category of just general awareness adverts, reminding people where I am, the things that we do, the products we sell. And then the third one, the most recent one, has gone down a sort of game show route. And that came about from actually a meeting with STV Creative, which is maybe a different subject altogether, but STV Creative. And then we came up with our own twist on what their initial sort of smidge of an idea. And so it's now a game show sort of style of kind of taking some inspiration from the Nationals and their sort of sale, instant, shout out, big boomy voices. And I wanted to do that myself. And I thought, they sound like a game show. So I thought, that's maybe put a sparkly jacket on me, make sure my question card, so to speak, had the name all on them. So there's lots of branding about, and we evolved to this sort of more, and Craig's already stolen this as an answer earlier on in his presentation, but not everyone's looking for a bed at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday night when my advert's played. That they might not need one for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I want to be in their mind's eye when they do finally decide that they need to buy something that I sell, and I want them to think of that annoying guy, or that guy, sorry, from Beds to Go in Aberdeen. That was my premise.
Yeah, well, listen, I had comments in from our backstage crew who have been trying to get the technical components that kind of tripped us up a little bit earlier. So hopefully we'll be able to go to Sarah and see if Sarah can roll your video.
Cool.
Go! Bed number 1, a beautiful bed set, extra firm ortho mattress. You feel like you're sleeping on a...
Well, we can certainly see the video, which is great, but I think we lost audio. We had a little bit of it at the start, and technology gremlins are certainly playing up today, Lewis. But
if I still had my script, I would have spoken over the top of it.
So yeah, that's quite a different creative approach. Looking at the game show. Ultimately, has it worked? Have you been connecting with your customers? Have they been buying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I get asked this question 10 times a week, and STV has actually been a bit of a game changer. It's one of the changes that I made when I started, when I took over the business, that is actually quantifiable. It's certainly helped me as a business grow, helped the punters come in the door. And the reason I know that is not through surveys and questions. It's just everyday people that walk into my shop and say, that's the laddie for the TV. It's little simple things like that. Or, before days of face masks, of course, people could maybe see my physog when they were walking around the supermarket or that. And you do, it sounds silly, but you get stopped and said, you're the guy for the telly. So if people are speaking about it and are noticing and are recognising, that is enough for me. Yeah, and the bed centre is thriving because of it. It's a really great tool for us.
Yeah, well, listen, Lewis, that's a really positive message. So thank you very much for that. And you're going to hang around until the end of the programme. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you a bit later on with questions. So just as a reminder, folks, if you do have questions, either for Craig, Lewis or Shelley that we'll be coming to in just a moment, if you do have any questions about connecting with your customers, please do put them into the chat session, and we'll try and ask those as we go through. Craig, Lewis, for now, thank you so much indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So a company and a person and an entrepreneur that Elevator knows really well is our next guest, Shelley Booth. Shelley went through our Accelerator program in Dundee a couple of years ago, and Shelley had a really ambitious idea for how she was going to grow her business. So we'll bring Shelley on now to have her talk about her business, what she's achieved, and her approach to connecting with her customers. Shelley, can you hear us and see us okay?
I can see you and hear you fine, Andy. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Shelley, it's been fantastic to have you on the programme. I know we've known each other for a couple of years, and I would have to say we've kind of been able to sit back and watch in awe and admiration of the fantastic journey that you've been on as a business. But for those that perhaps don't know who you are or what you do, it'd be great to get an introduction to your business and your journey over the last couple of years. Shelley.
Thanks, Andy. Hi, everybody. I'm Shelley Booth, the creator of the Feel, Look, Be formula, which is my, over the past 2 years, new baby, if you like. I've been immersed in the world of health and fitness all my life. I've got a gym in Dundee called Train, Eat, Sleep, Repeat. It's a CrossFit gym. But this is something completely different, and it started a couple of years ago, as you say, Andy. So Feel, Look, Be, or the Feel, Look, Be formula is an online program for women. It's not fitness. It's an absolute game changer, life changer, because I educate women, I support women every single day. I'm live twice a day, every day. And wherever I go around the world, the women come with me. We're on our phones, we're on our devices. It's something I've never known before. And I've traveled the world, gleaning knowledge, learning and growing constantly for 20 odd years in this industry. I've never known this. It's a program for women. And people say, so why is it women then? Women are really great at taking knowledge and inspiration back into the family home. I've trained thousands of guys and they keep it to themselves most of the time. They look great. They're taking their A game back into the household, but they're not really sharing. There's no family cooking. There's no family fitness really to talk of. But women are very different. So that's why it's a female program.
Yeah, and by the sounds of things, Shelley, you really know your audience, you really know your customer, and that was always a message that we put across at Elevator. Build your business around your customer, build your product proposition around what people are looking to buy, and by the sounds of things, you've been able to do that, Shelley. But your journey wasn't all easy, because when you originally came to us, you were looking at doing something online. And most people sort of said, well, it's fitness. You want to be in a gym. You want to be going where there's resources and facilities, and this kind of training from home at that time, bear in mind, wasn't right. But you persevered, and of course, timing has fallen very generously for yourself. So tell us a wee bit more about that particular evolution and journey, Shelley.
So it really started, Andy, when I was always putting up transformation photographs from my gym and my beach boot camps, which was hugely popular at the time, a couple of years ago. And people would get in touch with me from all across the world and say, that's amazing. I would love to be part of what you do. And I'm still not great with IT. I thought, no, I couldn't even think about an online business. But then as time went on, more and more people were getting in touch. And a few people that I knew says, why don't you do that? There's loads of people doing it. Why don't you do it? So I thought, do you know what? I'm going to try. And so I started with 15 people initially. And I thought, just test it, see what happens. And it's now grown to what it is today. And it's, to be honest, Andy, I can't even believe it, to be really quite frank. I don't know why it's got to that point, but when you consider my skills in IT are minimal. But if you've got the drive and the will and the right message and the story, it just comes together. It really does.
Well, let's talk about that message and that story for just a moment. We heard from Craig earlier on about the importance of that, and I do understand that you have taken out advertising along with STV, and that's hopefully boosted your numbers. But what's your story? How do you present your offering to your potential customers?
So my story is, I mean, to be honest, and I need to credit yourselves with this, Andy, and Elevator, because it was through going through Elevator that really made me tap into my story much more than I ever did. I obviously know it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't even realise that, you know, your customers need to hear this stuff. It's really close and dear to my heart. But so my story, my backstory is, my dad died when he was 56, heavy drinking, poor lifestyle and all that stuff. And we talk about, you know, when people want to lose weight, you could actually be, you look thin and you look slim, but internally it's a different story. And that was the case with my dad. And he was diagnosed with hardening of the arteries, and his heart gave in. So at the middle of my logo, well, it's an S and a B, but there's a wee love heart, and that represents my dad's heart. So when I talk people through the story and the day that he died, I was immersed in the world of health and fitness. I was training celebrities at the time, really high profile celebrities. And I thought, do you know what? I never spoke to my dad about this. You know, this has to change and people need to know this stuff. My dad was a Dundee man. Wouldn't even listen if I did try to talk to him, but I never even tried to talk to him. So that sits heavy with me. So since that day, I thought, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change it for as many people as possible. It's not about the business model. It's about engaging with as many people as possible. If I do that, the business model is going to take care of itself. And that's what I've done since that day. And I was 26 then, Andy, and I'm 42 now. But it didn't actually click and the penny didn't drop until I went through Elevator and thought, Bob Keeler's talk on storytelling. Listened to that all day and I thought, I need to do this. Why haven't I been doing this?
Yeah, it's you know, it's a relatable story. You know, people will be able to understand you. It's human, and particularly when health and physical fitness is right at the centre of what you do, Shelley. It's so important. And let's just talk about briefly before we start to open up to questions. The activity that you undertook with STV, you clearly felt a need to communicate out to your customers, and you worked with STV in order to do that. Talk us through that process, Shelley.
So it was quite, as you put it, an opportunistic time about last August-ish. There was a lot of bums on seats, a lot of eyes on tellies, a lot of ears open, and nobody can go anywhere. And I thought, you know what? Never thought about television advertising. Thought it was too expensive for a start. I thought, I can't really afford that. And then the Growth Fund come round and I started to learn more about it, talking to someone who's already done it. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to give it a go. But at that point, Andy, I suppose I was more visible than I've ever been. I was putting myself out live on Facebook I've got maybe 14,000 likes on a Facebook page, let's say, and then Instagram. So my confidence had grown a lot in a couple of months. COVID hit, but also I was, for 6 or 7 months prior to that, I was building a really solid infrastructure of a team, a really good, qualified and able team. So between STV, the team, me being confident and that drive that I've got, it just kind of, the timing was perfect for me and for us as a team. So STV, you know, in terms of positioning, it's been great for me. Like you were saying, Lewis, getting recognised going down the street. I can't go anywhere in Dundee without people knowing who I am, what I do. They get it. They might not be a customer just yet, but growth mindset, not yet. They will be, hopefully one day. And I'll just keep chipping away and use the other platforms to try and harness the awareness that STV has given me.
Brilliant. And Shelley, we know that the results that you're delivering to your customers are transforming their lives, but the results that you're seeing from your business support that you've received from Elevator, the support that you've received from STV, that's transforming your business and your bottom line, isn't it, Shelley? Absolutely.
I mean, being well connected, but also being supported. There's a lot to be said for that. And Elevator, yourself and Kat and others are always there. They're always at hand whenever you need anything. I mean, I've used Elevator for meeting and collaboration still, and that was 2 years ago. Yeah. Same with STV. They're always there to support.
Brilliant, wonderful message. So folks, we're going to open up to some questions that have come in. So just a reminder, if you do have questions, we've got about 10 minutes left to hopefully get through some questions. So I can see Craig and Lewis still on screen, and Shelley, we've just been talking. So I'm going to go to a question from Lee Allen, which has come in, and this one is for Lewis. Lewis, do you have any regrets about having your face so directly connected to your company? People clearly prefer to buy from a person, but is it possible to steer the brand away from the person as it grows? What's your thoughts on that, Lewis?
A very, very good question. That's around the dinner table and a Friday night question. These are the sort of deep and meaningfuls that I have with my wife. So I don't regret it, no. I think moving forward, I'm still plan to be doing this business in one way, shape or form for a long time yet. And the plan to progress, if the relationship with STV stays the same, would be to introduce others or other forms, other ways. So the advert currently has evolved to something, obviously building on the brand of the shop and my face, but that could evolve quite easily in the next few years of advertising. We could introduce other people to it, etc. So there is maybe a small regret, maybe not having the long-sightedness, but I think the positives outweigh, for me personally, the positives outweigh the negatives. And there's ways that we can adapt it as the years progress.
Yeah, it'd be fair to say that you've got a formula that works right now, and you know, why change it? Let's build on it and see where it goes. No, that's excellent. Thanks, Lee, for asking the question. A question for you next, Shelley. How has your marketing strategy changed since the pandemic to enable your businesses to continue, your business to continue to connect to your customers? Now, clearly the pandemic is something that has fueled your business, Shelley, and that's something that you and your team have been very smart to catch on to. But how has it evolved? And perhaps as maybe we start to see, lockdown starting to come to an end and so on, how do you think it will continue to evolve, Shelley?
So I've actually employed a head of marketing and PR for the business, which is a huge step forward, massive investment, but a huge step forward for me and the business as we move forward. A strategy that informs every part and every component of the business currently. COVID, obviously, the agenda, the health agenda, sat nicely on my lap. And to inform and to educate and to enthuse people to become healthier, it has been, I don't like to say an easy one, but it has been an easy route to try and get our message across. But the messaging component has been crucial for us. So we've been in the press lots lately. Sometimes we're maybe getting a wee bit controversial to be heard. We've just been in the Courier this week, actually, and I've just launched a corporate wellness program just this week, so that'll be in the Courier later this week too. But the agenda is there. So in terms of marketing, we now have someone who knows their stuff. Do you know what? I came into this business, this online business, knowing bits and bobs.
Yep.
Didn't really know where I was going with it. It's evolved into actually it's something, and now we've got somebody to take care of that, which I'm looking forward to.
Great to hear that your company has evolved. You've scaled and grown your business along with that. Craig, a question from you that came in. What's the number one top tip that you would give to a small business looking to better connect with their customers?
Andy, I think it's get your brand out there, get the story out there. I think there was an old saying, build it and they will come. And I don't think it applies the same these days. There's far too much competition out there. And I see, Shelley and Lewis, very impressive people. They're here putting themselves out there. They've been doing that the past couple of years with their brands, and they're successful for that reason. And they will continue to be successful as time moves forward. So, yeah, I think it's just take that brave step, get your brand out there. Sometimes that does mean expense, in the form of advertising, whether it's TV or radio or Google. But it's worth taking that plunge because without doing so, it's much harder to grow.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Promotion, and even more promotion. But I guess, as we've heard, being able to refine your story, refining your message, and develop it, and we've heard about the team at STV that can do that. A question for both Lewis and Shelley, and up to either of you who wants to take this one. How did you come to the decision to advertise with STV to reach your customers? And we've touched on that a degree already, but what was the thing that cemented in your mind that TV was the right way to go rather than perhaps some of the other forms such as online?
I was doing a lot of Facebook advertising. In fact, one of our ads has over 1 million views, which is pretty incredible. But it was the timing, the COVID timing. Everybody was at home, so why would you not? If you've got a pot of money there that you're going to use for advertising, you've never tried it before, you're doing everything else. Let's try it. That was my take on it.
Yeah, give it a go. And Lewis, what would you like to add to that?
Similar. I think we have an advertising budget that has changed quite dramatically over the past 10 years, for me personally, moving away from paper advertising to online and radio, etc. And STV kind of slotted in there. I would also add that STV as one channel and with our viewing figures, etc. There are other channels out there, there's other TV stations, right? So just to touch on that, it's very difficult to tie it down to just one specific channel. It would be spread over much more a completely different costing sort of structure. So STV was a bit more straightforward for me.
Yeah, great. And maybe as we just start to finish, some top tips. We've already asked Craig what his top tips were, but Shelley, 1 or 2 top tips for potential companies out there looking to connect with their customers. What would you advise them? Which direction would you point them?
First one, I suppose, for me anyway, I was working very much in it. You need to work in it and on it. So coming to Elevator, a business course like Elevator would be fantastic. Lets you see from a bird's eye view where you're going, what you're doing, what your vision is. Talking about business model canvas, that was new to me, but it's an intrinsic part of what I do now. So that's my first thing. And my second thing is, I suppose, engage with as many people as possible, local networks, business networks, and get the message out as best you can, and refine your message. Think about that ideal customer. I didn't do that either initially. I thought, I've got a gym, it's the same kind of customer. It's completely different. It's not the same customer at all. Didn't know that at the time. So continuing to refocus and pivot where you need to be on the ball.
Wonderful advice, Shelley. You've been clearly listening at Elevator, which is great to hear. Lewis, what would you like to add in terms of top tips for connecting to your customers?
Top tips so in the form of advertising through STV, if you're thinking about advertising with STV, I would say keep it simple. And even though your name might say exactly what it says in the tin, repeat it. Tell people what you do, and tell people how well you do it, and that certainly worked for me. Yeah.
Fantastic. And Craig, I'm sure you will agree with the sort of sentiment of both of those comments there, but also it would be good to know for those watching who are perhaps interested, how do they get in touch with STV to hear more about the Growth Fund and the support that's available?
Yeah, the most simple thing, Andy, is to email me direct. It's craig.lawson@stv.tv. We've got teams right across Scotland. So if you drop me a line, I will put you in contact with someone locally who will be in touch and chat you through the process.
Great, really nice and simple then. So we've came to the end. I'd just like to thank our panelists first and foremost. Craig Lawson from STV, Shelley Booth, thank you so much for coming on. Great to see you again, Shelley and Lewis Craddock. We'll look out for all of your ads on television in the coming weeks and months, no doubt. So thank you all for joining us. I've certainly learned an awful lot today. You've been very inspired with what I've heard from all. So thank you for your time this afternoon. Just in closing then, we would like to obviously extend our thanks to STV Elevator. I've really enjoyed working with the team at STV. They are a team who certainly share our passion for supporting businesses and ambition within Scotland. So we're delighted to have worked with them on this particular project, and we look forward to working with them in the future. I'd also like to extend a massive thanks to the team at Elevator, who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes in putting this together along with STV over the last 3 months. So thank you to the team at Elevator also. So for now, and this was 3 of 3, so for now it's cheerio from Elevator and STV, and we certainly hope to hear from you all in the future. And in your business and future entrepreneurial journey, we would like to just remind you that Elevator are here to help. We wish you all the very best, and as we say, be brave. Thank you very much.